Hello everybody, to all my friends out there in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. I wish I was there with you, but I'm a little otherwise detained. So I thought I'd give you just a quick little teaser tour here at the Booth Western Art Museum in Cartersville, Georgia, of some of the wonderful types of art that will be coming your way when we open the exhibition, The New West, The Rise of Indigenous and Contemporary Western Art, there at the Steamboat Art Museum on December 3rd. And it's going to run through April 11th, so you have plenty of time to get out and see it. Bring friends and family, the outlaws, the in-laws, everybody. Get out and see this great exhibition because it's going to include some incredible art that has not been featured at the Steamboat Art Museum before. And it's my pleasure to help be involved with the team that's going to bring it to you. One of the star artists that'll be in the exhibition and who really kicked off the whole idea of contemporary Indigenous and Western art, Fritz Scholder, one of the early instructors at the IAIA, that's the Institute of American Indian Art in Santa Fe, founded in the early 60s, and is one of the groups that really blows the doors open for new Western art, new ways of interpreting the West, new artistic techniques to be applied to Indigenous and Western art. Let's go take a look at a few of the other artists that will be featured in the exhibition as we walk through the museum. And we are so excited to be working with our friends at the Steamboat Art Museum to bring this exhibition to the area, again opening December 3rd. Another of the wonderful artists that will be included is our friend Ed Mell from Phoenix, Arizona. And this is a great example of his work. It actually belongs to the TIA collection. They're out of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and they're one of our partners on this exhibition. They're going to be loaning some art from their collection to the exhibition. And Ed is not only a painter, he's also a sculptor. We've got a wonderful example of his work back here. This is a smaller version of a public piece of art that's in a traffic circle there in Scottsdale, Arizona, and it's called Jackknife. And we're actually going to be borrowing that piece from a local collector there in Steamboat, and we've got some great private collections that are going to be loaning to the exhibition as well. Really cool cowgirl artist, Donna Hallis-Sickles. She'll be part of the exhibition. And many of the living artists whose work is going to be featured in this exhibition, they'll be having pieces that'll be for sale. So there'll be smaller pieces, mid-sized pieces by some of these wonderful artists that you'll actually be able to look at and acquire for your own collections if you're interested in doing that. Another wonderful artist that'll be included from Tucson, Arizona, Howard Post, one of the great cowboy artists alive today. He's a rodeo veteran and applies a lot of what he learned as a cowboy and a rodeo performer into his artwork. Very contemporary look to it. One of our favorite artists here at the museum. Another wonderful artist, Nelson Boren. Great watercolor artist. You're going to be amazed at the texture in his pieces that he gets in watercolor. Absolutely incredible technique. And there'll be a couple of huge pieces of his in the exhibition, and we're looking forward to you experiencing his art. As we cross over here, we're going to start back talking about more of the indigenous side of the exhibition, some of the native artists that will be included. One of those right here, Shanto Begay, and he lives in Flagstaff, Arizona, and has a wonderfully impressionistic, fresh style when it comes to depicting the subjects that go on around where he lives and some of the more spiritual and ceremonial aspects of native culture. Right next to that is one of the real stars of indigenous art. That's T.C. Cannon. He was one of the early students of Fritz Scholder, who we mentioned earlier. Died very young in a car crash, was barely 30 years old, and really a tragic loss for the art world. He was coming on to be one of the really stellar native artists in our country and was really cut down before he even got to his prime. So his works are highly valued, fairly rare, and so it's very exciting. We're going to be bringing at least one, maybe two of his pieces to this exhibition this fall at the SAM. Down the way here, we find the artistic evolution of an incredible artist named Alan Hauser. He was an Apache, and he was the first freeborn Apache baby from his clan. They had been held by the U.S. government for over 20 years in captivity, and he was the first one born free. This is a very early example of his work when he was working in a fairly flat style, influenced by the Dorothy Dunn School. Later he became the sculpture instructor at IAIA that I've mentioned a couple of times, And as we kind of swing around behind us here, we'll see an example of his sculpture. And you'll see how he went from being fairly flat, traditional style, to something pretty darn modern in his sculpture. And that was the kind of lessons he was passing on to his students at IAIA, including people like Doug Hyde, who will be in the exhibition as well, who did much more modern and contemporary work coming out of that art school. Another friend of ours, Kim Wiggins, here from Roswell, New Mexico. Roswell may have something to do with how crazy his art is. I'm not sure about that, but we always joke with Kim about that. I think he's kind of Thomas Hart Benton meets Vincent van Gogh. I think you see some elements of both of those in there, as well as Spanish colonial art and a lot of other things that mash up to make Kim's work. This is actually a self-portrait of him right here, and he's being passed the torch of Taos and Santa Fe, New Mexico art from Oscar Burninghouse. So that's kind of a transitional, generational thing in art that he's depicted in this wonderful painting of the Rancho de Taos Church. A few more to see real quick that I want to point out to you. As we come around to the front part of this gallery, right here on the left, we find a great example of the work of Earl Biss. He, again, was an early student at IAIA, would have been working with Fritz Scholder and Dan Dominga, Kevin Redstar, many of the other early students. This is a great example of his work, and it's called Plenty Coups in the Sun. So really a great piece right there. As we swing on over this way, we also find the work of John Nieto, who will be featured in the exhibition. His work has a very interesting style, somewhat based on German expressionism, color field painting, and a very distinctive style. You certainly recognize his work when you see it. As we come down a couple of more pieces, we come to a wonderful piece by Dan Dominga, again, one of the early students at IAIA. This is called Reservation Dusk. So this is up around the Hopi and Navajo reservations, and you can see the wonderful sunset and how the mesa is just barely silhouetted there on the horizon. Really cool piece. As we work on down, we'll find a great example of our friend Kevin Redstar, and he lives in Red Lodge, Montana. So we're bringing folks from all over the West for this exhibition. A lot of the work will be coming from here at the booth, private collections from private collectors all around the West, and the TIA collection I mentioned earlier. So it's really going to be a blockbuster exhibition featuring work by artists like Kevin Redstar and all the other ones I've introduced you to in this little quick tour. So I hope we've got you a little bit excited about this exhibition coming December 3rd to SAM, The Rise of Contemporary Indigenous and Western Art, the New West. So please tell all your friends and family to make a plan to get out to SAM sometime between December 3rd and April 11th. You're going to love it, I guarantee it.